Hi everyone and welcome. It's a real pleasure to have Sunil Mangwani here in the Beginner's Corner. I do believe that we should offer to all our students. Hello, Ma. Hello, everyone. As I was saying, sorry, I believe we should offer to all our students different points of view and different ways of watching the market, right? I do believe the better words I hear till now came past session with Raggy Horner that says that this is a tool I use and I apply. That does not mean there are other tools that are great to trade the forex market, right? So, uh, no, you're not supposed to see anything, okay, aviator? So the idea of these webinars is to share the different tools we, the different traders, use, right, and how we use it. So you can grab a bit of everything, okay, of each of us, and maybe find the right tool for you. As we always say, it's not the tool you use, but how you use it. We need to learn to use a lot to find the great or better one for us. Okay. Anyway, I won't take any more time from Sunil. Really, again, my pleasure to have you here. Okay, and I will be here listening as all good students. Okay, and thanks all really for being here.
All right. Okay, folks. Thank you very much, Valerie. It is a pleasure being over here. It's been a long time, and thank you for the introduction. Thank you for your kind words. Let's just go ahead, and this is basically just for basics. Is absolute basic stuff. But believe me, these basic stuff or the basic rules and principles are also important because I have seen traders using the do tend to use it ineffectively or not in we are looking at. There you go. Right, just give me a moment. I will be taking out my window from here so you can see that. That's absolutely fine. Let me just, before we start off with the PowerPoint, I just wanted to give a brief introduction. Right. Now, Fibonacci ratios are important. I use Fibonacci ratios all the time. I trade mainly on this because we use it for divergence, harmonic patterns, Elliott waves, and the works. But what is more important is the correct way. Like any other system, if you use it correctly, it gives you the correct picture. If you use it incorrectly, it probably will mean the difference between success and failure. Right? So I use Fibonacci's a lot. In fact, my website, which is look at this. My website is FibForex, Fibonacci Forex. This is what the website is. FibForex 123 is what it's called because 123 pattern also is based on Fibonacci levels. So mainly Fibonacci's, and let's go right ahead with the introduction on theory, just to lighten up things. Leonardo Fibonacci, the person who invented the Fibonacci ratios. Now let's start off with okay, what do they have to do with the financial markets? Well, it was quite early 1200s when the Italian mathematician Leonardo Fibonacci uncovered a secret about the ancient civilization, as they say, which revolutionized the entire mathematical world and which is used today for the financial markets, which he developed the Fibonacci sequence of numbers. Now, this has become the foundation of many effective trading systems, and I could tell you, because I, as I said, use Fibonacci's for harmonic patterns, for divergence, for Elliott waves, for 1, 2, 3 patterns, which we will be going over very much in brief since it's just basics. But believe me, they are effective, and we've been doing that. I can confidently tell you that. Now, these Fibonacci numbers are used in art, biology, music, architecture, but they're also used in the financial markets to identify strong levels of support resistance. Now, this is just one of the functions of the Fibonacci's to identify strong levels of support or resistance. Let's see what the Fibonacci sequence is. The sequence by itself is a mathematical sequence which simply says it starts off from 0 and the sum of the third number is effectively the sum of two previous numbers. So you have 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, then 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. 5 plus 8 is equal to 13. So it goes on and on, stretching up to infinity. So the sum of two numbers is effectively the third number, which becomes a sum. What is more important about this series by itself is a mathematical series, but the real value lies in the fact is where do these Fibonacci ratios come from? That if you divide the numbers of the series, right? If you divide any number to the next higher number, the ratio is always 0.618, very approximately. It always tends to come to 0.618, right? So if you divide 5 by 8, it is 0.618. If you divide 34 by 55, it is 0.618. And the lower number, if you divide it the other way around, if you divide 144 by 89, it comes to 1.618. So this T ratio of 61.8 is known as the golden mean or the golden ratio, and simply found by dividing one number in this series by the number which follows it or precedes it, as the case may be. Right? Now, the Fibonacci ratios that we know, the most common Fib retracement that we talk about, the 38.2, the 61.8, they derive from here. 61.8, of course, is the 61.8 0.618. So if you divide these two numbers, similarly, the 38.2 ratio divides one number in the series by the number two places to the right. So in this case, I would look probably at 13 divided by the second number, 34, it will give you 0.382. Similarly, the 23.6 and so on and so forth. So your Fibonacci ratios that we use in the financial markets today are derived from this mathematical series. Right? There's just some theory part of it. You must understand where it comes from. Now, ironically, I call it ironically, it is one of the most effective tools, but most traders, and believe me, I've come across a lot of traders who use Fibonacci, but they do not use it properly. They can very accurately anticipate when the market makes a major turn, identify key turning points, and I'll just show you on the charts what I'm following today on my trades right now on the charts live as to the effectiveness of the same thing, and it's always good. I can give you lots of theory. I can give you some books to read about Fibonacci's, but until and unless it's not used in the market, not implemented in the live market, I would be wasting my time as well as yours. So whatever I'm talking about today, right now over here, is I will show it to you in the markets and tell you, okay, look, this is how I use it and this is what you're supposed to do. And so if you can learn to use them correctly, you can definitely increase the profitability of your trades. Now, as traders, we know that this is a business of probabilities. Losing trades are a part of trading. You will always get losing trades, and there's no two ways about it. What you are looking as a trader is that edge which gives you a better percentage of winning trades than losing trades, because that's how your account keeps growing. Now, if you use the Fibonacci's correctly, it can give you that edge. Right? They are easy to use. They're not really very difficult, but at the same time, it's very easy to misuse it. Once again, we'll go some examples of this. So you must learn how to use it, implement it properly. Now, before we go to the different Fibonacci ratios, just one off point, a humorous point of that. Why do Fibonacci's or why do these numbers work in the financial markets? Right? They work in music, in architecture. The pyramids are based on the Fibonacci numbers, the pyramids of Egypt. They all are Fibonacci numbers. You find Fibonacci numbers in plants, in music, the notes of music also. Human beings. Right now, logically, the way I see it is markets are driven by human beings. Right? Now, if you look at trading in a sense, when you're trading currency, we're specifically talking about Forex. When you're trading a currency, you may be buying and selling a currency, but effectively what you're doing is you are trading other traders. Obviously, for you to buy a currency, there's somebody on the other side who has to sell it to you. And if you're selling, there must be somebody on the other side who will buy it from you. The market moves on our perceived notions. It's not the fundamentals which moves the market. It's not the technicals. It is our interpretation of the thing which moves the market. Right now, we have some news on the euro. Right? You saw how the euro whipsawed. It went up and it jumped down. You may think that is still something good for the euro. You may buy it. I may think there's something bad for the euro. I may sell it. It's this collective emotions which drives the market. So markets are driven by human beings. It is your interpretation of the fundamentals and maybe of the technicals and my interpretation which come together to drive the market. That's how the prices work. And in very basic sense, what trading is all about. Most traders, believe me, forget about what trading is all about and they tend to look only towards indicators, which is something I do not recommend. I've always said that indicators are completely lagging. Look at price action, and Fibonacci, for that matter, becomes a leading indicator because it's based on price action. So if the markets are driven by human beings, obviously human emotions, I could give you some examples of Fibonacci ratios in a human being, so maybe that's why a market really works, or these ratios work in the market. If you take your entire height of your body for any human being, from the head to your toe, and you take the height from your head to your belly button, and you divide the two, it is always 0.618, always. If you take the length of your arm from your shoulder to your fingertip, and you divide it to the length from your arm to your elbow, that is always 0.618 in all human beings. Similarly, 5 fingers, 5 is the Fibonacci ratio. You have 5, 8, your Fibonacci. So I could go on and on. In fact, I could give you, there's an excellent YouTube video which I have on the use of Fibonacci ratios, the number of teeth that we have, etc., etc. But we are here to talk about the markets. Anyway, so if there are Fibonacci ratios present in human beings, or the markets are driven by human beings, I assume logic, right? Logic says if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. Right? So that's why the fib works. Let's get back to technicals. The fibs can be divided, let me call them fibs, the Fibonacci ratios can be divided into 4 main groups. They are the retracements, the fans, the arcs, and the time zones. Now each of them have a different perspective. Very simply put, your retracements are horizontal levels. Your fans are dynamic levels, sloping. Trend lines are dynamic levels. Your arcs are circular. Right? And your time zones, of course, are on a different axis. Your retracement is on a different axis. Your time zone is on a different axis of the chart. So that's why 4 different sections of the Fibonacci. What we will be looking at is mainly today we'll just be looking at the retracements and the fans. We have others. I generally don't use the arcs too much, so I really wouldn't talk about it. There are other ratios of the fib projection and the fib expansion, which we'll be using or which we'll be going subsequently over in another session later on. Today we'll concentrate on these two because these are the very basics. Now, a very common misinterpretation is that most traders tend to use the same Fibonacci ratio, and which is the retracement. I have seen traders using only a retracement for all kinds of situations, but every situation demands a different fib ratio. And with the correct Fibonacci ratios, values, 38.2, 50, 61.8, these are the standard which are available even on your standard charting platforms. But there are other fib ratios which are more important. So just like the tools in a carpenter's toolbox, which I call, you wouldn't probably, a carpenter would not use a hammer for a job that requires a screwdriver. So as simple as that. So every fib ratio has a different situation to it. Right? So you must learn to use these ratios in a proper way and in the proper situations. Now, the ratios really play an important role in the financial market, just as they do in nature, as we said. Price has an uncanny way of respecting Fibonacci ratios, often very precisely. So we can take advantage of this fact. The one thing I have always believed in, and I can prove it to you, that price action is never random. There is what we call a method behind the madness. Every wave leaves behind clues for the next move. You can use a previous action to determine the anticipated or expected price movement, which in a sense isn't what we are doing for the Fibonacci ratios. Right? Let's just go over the charts. Well, okay. Okay, we have some comments. Just give me a moment. Well, yes, absolutely. Take it as you want. It's the question of the skeptics will not take any piece of evidence and the believer will grab at straws. It's always the case. For me, I put it down very simply. If it works for me, I'll use it. The fact is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I make good trading. Today I make a living out of it. I have managed accounts. I trade other accounts. We've done started managed accounts and we are doing fantastic. We are really doing very well, giving great returns. Most of my trading systems are based on Fibonacci. So if it works, I'm just here to tell you how it works for me, and I hope that it can work for you also, but it's different for every different person. Let's get to the charts. When I say every wave leaves behind clues, what do we do in Fibonacci ratios? The simple ratio of your retracement. What is a retracement? Right? Let's assume that this is the down movement, or let's take the latest price movement. Right? This is what it is. I would probably use a Fibonacci retracement, which most traders do, from the swing high down to the swing low, expecting or plotting levels of resistance where price is expected to find resistance with the standard values of 38, 50, 61.8. In a sense, what we are doing, we are using the previous wave to give us clues for the next one. Right? That's what we are doing. So we are using the previous waves. Now there is always a way to use it. Fibonacci's are important, but let's just go over some basic ground rules. Now this is really the key. A lot of traders, believe me, even experienced traders I've come across, do not really follow these. This is very simple. It's just the way the fibs should be used. The first and foremost is your fibs should always be plotted from the left to the right of the chart. Now let's get back to this, what we mean by this. If let's just zoom this inside a little bit. Right? What I'm looking at currently right now is this wave. As a trader, I need to know whether this is going to continue to the upside, or has it found resistance somewhere and is it going to turn towards the downside? That's what I need to know as a trader. Am I going to go long on this? Am I going to go short on it if I want to take a trade? So obviously I'm going to be using the previous wave to determine expected levels of resistance. Always plot your fibs from left to right, meaning if I start plotting my fibs from the left-hand side, obviously the swing high becomes a first point, and on the right side, the swing low becomes a second point. So I will plot my fibs from high to low to give me expected levels of resistance. Let's take, for example, this particular move. If I wanted to trade this move, I would be using this previous down up wave, this wave, to determine if I'm trading the fibs from left to right, my swing low comes first and the swing high comes second, because we are using the direction left to right. So I would plot my fibs from low to high to give me expected levels of support, whatever levels, fib levels of support they come. But this becomes a key, because I have seen traders plotting the fibs, like even if I'm looking at this particular wave, right? I'm looking for this down wave. I can see them plotting fibs from this swing high down to this swing low, which is not the way it works. Unfortunately, I would say, unfortunately, Fibonacci's price tends to respect the fibs across all time frames and across all zones. So you may get some good levels, but they are not the correct levels. So remember the first thumb rule, left to right. The second thumb rule is they should be always plotted on pivot points or swing points. You must visually identify the points from where price has changed trend from. A more effective way would be looking at it pivoted from. Right? You need to identify the waves. If the pivot points are not clear, go to a higher time frame. Now what we mean by this is if I want to plot my fib, I would definitely need to plot my fibs from this swing low to this high. I cannot plot my fibs from an in-between swing point to the high. Or if I'm looking at fibs level from here, I cannot plot it from an in-between swing point down to this low to give me levels of resistance. Now, identifying the pivot points or the swing point is important. You can visually identify the places from where price pivots from, right? Would I take this as a pivot point as far as we are concerned? As you zoom this inside, I would not. The reason why I'm going through this difference is this is an in-between point. Where did price change trend from? Can we see it clearly? The simple fact is, if a 5-year-old can see a trend, it is a trend, and if you can identify it, then that is what it is. Right? So identify the swing points. If I was looking at this down wave, let's have a look at this down wave. I want you to trade this wave towards the upside. I will plot my fibs from this swing high to this swing low. I cannot plot it from in between level. It's wrong. It will give me the wrong picture. Right? So visually identify the swing points. On the daily platform, I can identify this is a swing point. This is a swing point. This is a place where price has pivoted from. Do I identify this as a swing point? For the time being, I can. I can say, okay, this is a one. But if you stretch behind, you have one more lower. Now, if you cannot see it clearly on this time frame, always go one time frame higher. On one time frame higher, this is what we look at. What is my swing point? This becomes my swing point. You getting my point? This is your swing point. Now, if on the weekly time frame I need to plot my fibs, I'm going to be plotting my fib ratios from this swing low up to this swing high to give me expected levels of support over here. So every time frame can give you a different fib level. The best way, of course, is to align the different time frames, but just as an example, this is what you must look for. Right? So swing points. So you cannot plot fib ratios from the points in the middle of the wave. The third important thumb rule is you must always plot the fibs on the wicks or the candles. And if you're looking for support resistance, on support resistance you consider the real body. Alright, now what does that mean? Simply means that if, once again, if I zoom this inside, let's take into example the current wave. Right? Let's forget about this for the time being. If I need to plot my fibs, I'm going to be plotting my Fibonacci ratios from the wick of this candle to the wick of the low. I cannot plot my fibs from the real body of the candle down to the real body because you're ignoring the wick. Now, if you go down to a lower term time frame, this wick is a price movement. Price has been there, it's visited there. We must encompass the entire price movement to give us the correct fib ratios. On the other hand, if we are looking for levels of support resistance, we need to look at the real bodies. We'll come down to this point once we start with the fibs. Alright? Okay, so these are the basic rules. These are golden thumb rules, and this is something which you must remember. Very, very important. Let's start off with the very first one, the fib retracement. And most commonly used. Now, prices always move in waves. Within an existing trend, we use the retracement levels to identify possible levels of support resistance, where price is expected to bounce or go through. So in an existing trend, we wait for price to retrace, identify the swing points, plot the fib retracements to each point. So price is expected to find support at any fib retracement level. Now looking at this particular example, here I will plot my fibs. Let's use the thumb rules, left to right. So I'm looking at this current down wave. I want resistance levels on this current move where it's expected to go. So I'm using the previous wave. I plotted left to right. I plotted on the wicks. So I'm going to be plotting my fib retracements from this high down to this low. I cannot plot it from an in-between high, in-between fractal bar, in-between bar. I cannot do that. I have to plot it here to give me the correct picture. Now, as we can see over here, so far price has stopped exactly at the 61.8. There's one point which I'd like to make. The price does tend to respect the Fibonacci levels for whatever reason, but price tends to stop exactly at fib levels. But when I say when you're looking for levels of support resistance, you look at the real body, it means that right now we are looking at the 61.8 level, price finding resistance at the 61.8 level. You have the wick of this bar going through it, which is a lot. You cannot have a real body close above the fib level, above or below. Simply means if I take this, if I had the fib level like this, and I had a real body of the candle going through it, the thumb rule says the price has crossed this fib level and it is expected to go to the next one. On the other hand, if I have a situation like this, where price finds resistance and you have the wicks going through exactly, and no real body being able to close, it means that it's formed a strong resistance. The interpretation of the candle is, especially of this last candle, how do you interpret this? And looking at price action, let's analyze or break down this candle. It's a down closing candle, so you had an open somewhere here. Sometime during the course of the candle, price went up. It made a low and it tended to close somewhere over here. That's what the red candle says. Which means that price did go above the fib level for some time, but it was driven down by the triggers, which implies that it's a strong resistance level. So wick is allowed to go through a level of support resistance, a real body should not. On the other hand, when you're plotting it, you must plot it to the extremes. Right? Clear about that? Let's have a look at this situation. I deliberately chose this because we have been trading the Aussie. Let me just show you some simple, effective fib levels on retracements. If I plot my fibs from here to here, 78.6, nice. If I plot the fibs from here to here, wow, once again 78.6, quite good. Now why does this happen? I don't know. If I plot it from here and here, 61.8, 3 moves consecutively since the middle of this year, finding resistance and support precisely at fib levels. Now, let me come back to my old dialogue, which I used to talk about. Tell me that the fibs don't work. All right, so fibs are very, very effective. Coming back to the fib retracements, among all the ratios, the golden mean is a 61.8, but the 786 level is also very important. Maybe because mathematically the square root of the golden mean, but I consider the 78.6 to be the barrier of the reversal level. Now this is a level where price has a very high probability of retracement. Simply put, let's get back to the charts. Right? Let's take this one. So long as price remains within the 78.6, it can retrace from the 50% down, it can retrace from the 61 down, it can retrace from the 78.6, and it's expected to move down. The minute you have a convincing close of price above the 78.6, it means that this retracement, or it implies, that this retracement has turned into a reversal and price will or has a high probability of moving up now. It will not continue with the downtrend. 78.6 is the barrier. This is the reversal. So long as price remains anywhere below the 78.6 or above, as the case may be, you can expect this downtrend to resume. If it breaks, it's expected to move up. Right? That's a very important thumb rule, something which you should remember, because this is something which works for me. I have been trading effectively, and I'm sure it will work for you. Right? So this becomes a 78.6. Now, we just have over 10 minutes more. Let me go over another ratio which I want to introduce. First, ideal situation to use a fib retracement. As we looked at it in an existing trend, when you're looking at a pullback, if it's held at 78.6, all the more better. It's just one chart example. We went over charts, so I'm not really going to look at this. Let's have a look at something called the fans, because this is something not many people use. Fans are nothing but dynamic lines. Right? They're dynamic diagonal lines. They use fib ratios. I've just given the theory. How do you plot it manually, which you really don't need to do because all your charting software have all of this. This is what a fan looks like, these dotted lines you can see here going up. These are the fans. So these are based on the Fibonacci ratios. Now, in the fans also we use the standard ratios of 38, 50, 61, 76.4 and 88.6. Now these levels are different. The 76.4 is very close to your 78.6, but on a dynamic level, the 76.4 works very well. Don't ask me why. Just by experimentation and somebody who's using it, I have seen that it works much more. You can use the 78.6, it's very, very close. But like the 78.6 on the retracement horizontal level, on a fan, the 88.6 is very important. Like that 78 retracement, the 88.6 is the barrier level on your fans. Right, so this is one level which needs to be very, very important. Now, ideal situation to use the fans. The only thing that I really look for is to validate a 1, 2, 3 pattern. We'll just go over this quickly, just very briefly. You can use fans also to determine future levels of support resistance. They work very well on larger term time frames. You get an idea of the trend. Right? As an example, this is one example. Now this was a weekly chart. On the weekly chart, you can see that if you have plotted fans on a string low to a high, how price tends to respect the fan levels. They offer very strong levels of support resistance. So you can determine the change of trend or anticipated levels of resistance support in an existing trend. When price is moving, it is expected to come towards a fan level, which really does work. But one of the most important uses of fans is to determine what we call as a 1, 2, 3 pattern. Now, what exactly is a 1, 2, 3 pattern? Very briefly, I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. Let me put across something that we are right now trading a 1, 2, 3 pattern on the Euro JPY post the fundamental news. Right? This is classified as a bullish 1, 2, 3 pattern. Simply put, in the previous trend, your lows were going lower, your highs were going lower. The change of trend is determined when you come across a low which does not break this previous low. Right? So you had lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, higher low. This classifies to be a 1, 2, 3 pattern. Putting in simple terms, a 1, 2, 3 pattern is always validated by a fan. You use the same concepts of the fib ratios. You plot your fans. We need to plot them from 1 to 2. Plot them left to right, from the swing low to the swing high. Let's plot it over here. Plot it from this one. Price has found support exactly at the 88.6 fan level. Now this is what I call as validating your 1, 2, 3 patterns. 88.6. Now the 88.6 fib fan level more or less is quite close or is almost equal to the 78.6 fib retracement level that we've been looking, but fans are a better indication. Somehow I found that dynamic levels are much more better. So any 1, 2, 3 pattern, so long as price remains within the 88.6, it is expected to bounce. It could be at any level. It could bounce at the 61.8. It could even bounce at the 76.4. It's still valid. The thumb rule says that if price gives you a close of a candle below the 88.6, this retracement has turned into a reversal. Right, so that is the most important use of a fan level. A couple of examples I can give you more, but this is the live example that we are trading the Euro JPY based on the simple concept that it's bounced on the 88.6. Alright, I think that was about it. I'm sorry to end it so abruptly, but these are two ratios that I want you to go over, the retracements and the fans. because they are very important. We'll be going over subsequently the projections and the retracements. So that brings us to the close. The 50% is not exactly a fib level. It is an in-between level. If you look at the 38, 61, they're all part of the Fibonacci series of numbers. 50 is not a part of the Fibonacci series. It's just an in-between level, a half measured move, half channel, which a lot of traders look at. That's why it's important, but it is not a fib level. Yes, Leonardo. I would definitely prefer a 1, 2, 3 pattern than an ABCD. All right, so open to questions. Any questions over here? I think we are done with the presentation. Please feel free. Should I shut down my cam? Should I shut down my cam? If you're done with the recording, so we can take some questions. My audio is on. Again, the same concept that you would be using on this. Use the string high and the string low points. Ask, give a different interpretation. I would be very frank in telling you that I have not been able to find the correct use of arcs, so I will not be able to tell you. A trigger for what? For this 1, 2, 3 pattern? Absolutely, Jan. It's a reversal pattern which should be confirmed by a fan. If it is not confirmed by a fan, then it is not a valid 1, 2, 3 pattern. Period. For your fib entry, well, Philip, they are also based on different fib levels. So I really cannot generalize it right now, but every, like this 1, 2, 3 pattern, the entry is based on certain fib retracement, fib expansion levels, since we have not covered those. But all my entries, the trigger to get into a trade, is based only on price action and on fibs. It's not on anything else. I never really look at indicators to look at whatever entry conditions or whatever. Well, I suppose that's it. So I do hope that this was informative for you. If you have any questions, please, you are free to call me up. Send me an email at any given time. I will always respond. I'm always available. This is my email. GY, that's going to cost you. I don't give recommendations because if I give you recommendations, you have to give me 78.6% of your profits. But I'm just kidding around. I don't have any projections. I look at the price right now and I trade what I see. I'll be very frank. Where it's going to be tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I don't know. I have a technical pattern, I trade. EuroJPY gave me a technical pattern, a bullish 1, 2, 3 pattern. I have entered the trade. I know exactly where it's going to go based on my fibs. I have a target. I manage my trades. It may work, it may not work. Post that, tomorrow where the EuroJPY is going to go, next week where it's going to go, I don't know, and I wouldn't really bother. Okay, it's just a way I use it, and I would really recommend everybody, you trade what you see today. Don't try and outguess the markets. Phillips, once again, these are based on fib expansions. Once we cover the fib expansions, your 1, 2, 3 pattern is validated by a fan level. The entry conditions or your trading parameters, your entry and your targets and your stop level is determined by your Fibonacci expansions. No, Nicholas, I'm not here to comment on price action. Believe me, no offense meant. It's just that I would rather concentrate on technicals over here. Well, this is a different fib extension level. A fib 23.6 retracement is not considered to be a valid retracement. A minimum 38.2 is considered to be a valid retracement. 23.6 is not really a retracement. So fib extension is based only on post 38.2, and I would rather use a Fib expansion for that matter. All right, folks. Any more questions? Anything else? It's been good to be back over here again. And like I said, we have absolutely failed. Trade management is the key to successful trading. I always do that. My method is I enter with minimum of 3 lots at the first technical levels, which are determined once again by Fibonacci's and a couple of other factors. We take profits, shift our stocks to break even, so you are in a free trade. Price goes further, you're still in the trade. If it reverses on you, you've walked away from the trade with some profits. Always take what the market is giving you now. Never leave it to chance. That's the best way to trade. All right. Thank you, Easy. Once again, folks, if you have any questions, you have my email. Feel free to send me an email. You want to discuss a setup, I'm always available. And hopefully we'll be back here soon with the second part of the Fibonacci's, where we're looking at Fib expansions. Right, so if there's nothing else, I'm here for some time. If you have any questions, of course, feel free, or I'll hand over the room to Valerie. She can ask you, she can tell you about something else.
Thanks so much, Sunil. Indeed, it was a really great seminar, and I hope you guys have taken full advantage of it. Anyway, it's recorded, so you can hear it again. And we will continue talking about Fibonacci in the next Beginner's Corners webinar, okay? Thank you all really for being here, and really thanks again, Sunil, for this excellent webinar. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.